Welcome to the Tim Castle Show, where I sit down with courageous people doing inspirational things around the world. My journey so far as a best-selling author of Be the Lion, The Art of Negotiation, Momentum Sales Model, and The Art of Decision Making has taken me to some very interesting places. I truly believe that the stories that we have locked up inside of us can help other people. And through those stories, we can transform the world. I'm sure you're ambitious, hungry, a go-getter, and you're looking for the latest strategies in how to become a high achiever and maintain that success and keep expanding. If that's you and that resonates, sign up for my newsletter, the School of Success newsletter, and I'll hit you with actionable ideas that you can put into play right away every single week. Let's go. Let's get into the episode. Okay, the man and the legend, we're lucky to have you here today, John Lee. You're a self-made millionaire. You're a very successful entrepreneur of multiple businesses. You're big into e-learning, investing in yourself. And I know that you know, and you do speak about this a lot, the best investment you can make is in yourself. You're born UK, first generation Chinese parents. You speak all around the world. You've gained an international reputation. I've been following you for a while. I love your work. I love the fact that you're out there taking action. You're a man of your word. You've created this huge property empire, multiple streams of income. I know that we're going to have a fantastic conversation. You're an inspiration, and I genuinely feel very, very lucky to be able to have this conversation with you today. So welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on, John Lee.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and love the way that you're doing, spreading the message, helping to really educate the next generation of entrepreneurs. And really, the number one thing that people need is that having that mindset to be able to follow through on what people want to achieve in life. So thank you for having me.
I concur. I feel like there's a kindred spirits here. I'm from the UK as well, so I kind of understand those dynamics. But I think just to start on that point, like, you're a true entrepreneur. Like, you've come into the world, and I think the way that you've figured it out, like, obviously you started out at the age of 7. I've read around your work. You were working in your parents' Chinese restaurant. You saw certain things and certain behaviors. How did that influence you to become who you are today and kind of impact your journey?
You know, Tim, one of the things I've seen a lot, I've been doing this for 20 years. And so one of the lessons that my parents taught me was this lesson of hard work, grit, determination, following through, and always saying that you can do something. And if you don't know how to do something, find a way to do it. And I think that's one of the most powerful lessons for me, because I see too many entrepreneurs now getting to business entrepreneurship, and they just want everything easy. Like, spoon feed me. And that's not the way business is done. The way business is done is to make sure, that you're always focusing on the hard things, because the hard things that make you the person you become. And so for me, it's always been this journey of, what challenges come in the way. And my parents always said that nothing, in life is for free. So we have to always work for the things that we want to achieve in life. And it's the person you got to become to be able to get to that point. And so that's been a big lesson for me over the last 20 years. Of any time something comes up, whether it's, real estate, whether it's AI, whether it's, digital currencies, like, all these things is a new learning curve to get to the next level. And I think too many people, they're not willing to put the time in. They're not willing to put the grit in. And, my parents came from Hong Kong over to England, and I saw how hard they worked. I never really saw my parents, Tim. Like, literally, they would start working a Chinese takeaway at 5, and they would come home at midnight. And I would see them for like an hour a day coming back from school. And so that really showed me this work ethic of doing whatever it takes and putting the time in to get the results.
I love that. Doing whatever it takes. Yeah. If you've got an ambition, you've got a goal. I think that's it. When you're climbing up a mountain, if you've had something like that in your life where your parents have had a big impact on you, where you've seen them hustling and making it happen. And I know that there's a lot of talk about hustle culture and the downsides, but also the good sides. And but I think what you're speaking to here is really the mindset of being able to be someone that knows what they want, right? And going after it.
Tim, you mentioned hustle culture. I don't care what people say about it. You got to hustle. I'm telling you, you got to hustle.
Yeah.
If you start a business, you cannot go to bed at 10 o'clock at night and wake up every day. Like there's gonna be some days you're gonna have to work 24 hours to get that job done. Here's the thing: as entrepreneurs, we only get paid on the results at the end of the day. We don't get paid from 9 till 5. We get paid on the end of the results, what the results are. So yes, there is this not burning yourself out and understanding that. And that's why you need to understand health, nutrition, meditation. You need to work on yourself. But there needs to be hustle there for you to take action, because otherwise nothing will get done. There'll be times where you want to do things and you don't want to do it, but you have to do it to get the result.
And that's the missing piece, right? And what's so different about that from a mindset of someone, say they're broke, say they're in a really low situation, to someone who's got like a wealth mindset, they've got an abundance mindset, they're connected to their purpose. Like, what is the biggest difference with a broke person or someone that's coming at it like I'm not going to work past 10?
Broke mindset is they are very close-minded. You tell them something, they'll say it sounds like a scam. You tell them some things, someone else has done something. Yeah, but it's okay for them because they're that person. They're this color. They're from this background. And I think the difference between someone who's broke and someone who is not broke is the mindset of possibility. Like, I truly believe that you can be anything you put your mind to. And when someone says to me, well, John, what if you're 5 foot? Can you be a basketball player? Well, in history, there have been some basketball players who are not as tall as someone's, but they become really good at what they do. So it's kind of like, I love the story of when the odds are stacked against somebody, when people have this realization, like, this is what being human is about. It's about having possibility to do the things you want to do in life, and to really have that spark, and to really live a fully, truly fulfilled life. And most people are not willing to go there because it's too hard, because it requires investment, because it means me having to sacrifice. And yes, there will be some sacrifices that you'll have to make to pursue your dream. There is no bones about it. Hustle and sacrifice will always be there.
I know in your talks, you talk about not being a boring millionaire. Like, don't be a boring. You talk about the acronym of FUN. Can we just spend a little bit on that?
Yeah, fun means fully utilized now, right? And so, when we talk about this hustle and burnout, really what we want to think about is actually how can you become part of the process? So, for example, I fly all around the world. And when I'm flying around the world, like, I like to shoot a lot of content. And when I'm with my family's like, okay, so it's about the timing of how you do something, right? It's not having, to do it every single day, but to do it with specific timing. So let's say let's say we're in a resort. Wife and family say, you know what, we want to go and get a massage. Okay, you guys go and get a massage. That's going to be two or 3 hours long. That means I have 3 hours to shoot content in this beautiful resort. Perfect. Right? So you shoot on the go. If I'm in the airport lounge, okay, we're going to wait for our flight. Okay, family, okay, we're at the lounge now. Okay, let's order some food. And by the time the food comes, I know it's going to take about 25 minutes. So I now have 25 minutes to shoot a 5-minute piece of content, for example. Right? Or if I'm chunking out content or chunking out calls and tasks, if I'm on a plane, like, I'll get, I know on the plane, it's going to be like a 15-hour journey to Singapore, for example. I know I just hook onto the internet, and then, my daughter's going to be watching some, kid stuff. And then my wife's going to be doing some other stuff and ordering caviar and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be like, okay, open the laptop, let's spend the first, hour of kind of getting into everything. Once they start falling asleep, okay, bang, I've now got 5 or 6 hours of straight. Yeah. And I might sandwich that with a film, but it's honestly, like, when people say they don't have time, that's just an excuse, because you'll make time for what's important to you.
Yeah. And what you're driving home here is really the go time. Like, it's go time. You're always on, you're finding those windows. I call it dead time. Like, when there's half an hour before you get on a flight, what can you create? What magic can you get do? How many emails can you send? Who can you meet in the airport that you could help? You could help them. Like, how can you build your network? Like, there's all these opportunities as we go through life on our daily basis. And whether you're flying to Singapore or not, like, on the plane it's great. I love being at a high altitude writing or doing stuff, because it makes you think different, right? And just a different space. So I love this, John. I really, really do. One of the things, so there's so much I want to get into here, but one of the things that I know you're really big on is mentorship. and the fact that you started out early. I mean, you were a self-made millionaire by 27, which is super impressive. And at the same time, I know that, and we'll go into this later, you figured out the different steps to wealth and what that really means and the different types of wealth that you can have. But talk to us about mentorship and the importance of having a mentor, and how did you find your first mentor?
So first of all, mentorship, anyone, I don't care what level you are, how rich you are. In fact, most billionaires that I know have multiple mentors, not just one, they have multiple. So it doesn't matter what level you are, you always need to start improving, because it's a game, Tim, of being the best version of you. And you can only be better if you know more, right? You can only be better if you hang around people better than you. In fact, like mine, I used to play a lot of badminton. So Elizabeth Khan, who was a Commonwealth medalist, she, every time I play badminton, she kicks my ass every time, right? And she's half the size. She's like, probably not as strong as me, but yet you see her clear a shuttlecock from the end of the court, from from corner to corner with hardly any effort. And when you're playing with people like that, you're like, well, how do these people do it? And it's a simple, I call these the quantum paradoxes. I actually have a new book coming out kind of talking about these little things. But quantum is, what are some of the little things that you can do that make a big difference? So do you know, if you hold a shuttlecock like this, right? So most people hold a shuttlecock like this with the hand gripped, right? So they hold it like this. And if you try and get power from it, you can't get power because there's no flexibility in the wrist. So she said, John, like, you're twice the size of me, but yet you can only clear it to half the length as me because you're holding it like this. What you need to do is you need to put your thumb like this. When you put your thumb on the side, you get a bigger flick, because when you put your thumb like this, it holds the racket square. So when you hit the shuttlecock, you get that snap.
Yeah.
And so like little things like that, I'm like, geez, like that's why you need a mentor, because you can be doing the same hit over and over and over again. You can be doing the right thing wrong. And so this is why mentorship is so important. So you asked me, how did I find my first mentor? So when I started getting into real estate, and I started getting in towards the recession, 2008, all my friends thought I was crazy. He said, John, why are you buying houses? It's like the house market is crashing. Can you not see what's happening on the news? And so here's what entrepreneurship's about. It's about jumping off a cliff and building a plane on the way down and figuring it out. So for me, when I got into that whole real estate industry in the worst time ever, what I realized was that actually in Chinese, there's a saying that says 危机, and it stands for crisis. One is opportunity, and the other word is crisis, made up of two words. In every crisis, there's always an opportunity. And so I thought, well, if everyone's trying to sell their properties, but no one's buying, that means I can put in better offers. So every house I was buying to was 20% off, 15, 20, sometimes 30% off the market prices. That means if a property's in London, you buy it for $1 million, you can get it for 700 grand. You make 300 straight away, you see? So, and that's when I started to learn from people, attending courses. One of my first mentors in real estate was a guy called Ranjan Bhattacharya. And it was £350 to attend this course. I'm like, what? I mean, it was the first time I kind of came across these seminars, right? Yeah. And then I read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm sure you've kind of read that, and I had the privilege of meeting some of the authors, sort of in present time now. But back then I was like, wow, like there's a difference between what you learn at school and what you learn from mentors. And so, and what I realized is the mentors that I want to learn from, like back then, all I cared about was, how do I earn enough money to never have the choice to never have to work again. Right. Even though I was an animator, I loved my job, but I didn't like what came with the job, the commutes, the long hours, just barely getting by.
Yeah. So what you say, you started off like 21K and then you moved up quickly to like 36, but then tax was taken, all these different bits were taken out of, and you were like, is this it? Like, this is time for money. But were you not scared? Like, if you've got like this money and you're like, cash is there and you're like, cool, I see this deal. Were you not scared on your first one, or like, was it the mentor that kind of helped you through that?
Well, there's a saying that says, where focus goes, energy flows. So if I focus on not having money, guess what I'm going to get more of? Not having money. Right? But here's the thing, right? Money, this is what I don't understand about a lot of people. They will, like, they don't, if you ask someone to invest $10,000 in mentorship, right, versus $10,000, we talk about pounds because in the UK, right? 10,000 pounds in like a watch or a car or a holiday. They won't blink an eyelid to do that, but they won't put that into themselves. And I'm still till today, I'm so fascinated by human motivation and behavior, and why you would not pay to shortcut a process and acquire knowledge of someone who's already done something. And it just blows my mind. And so when this guy, Ying Tan, is my second mentor in real estate, he said, if you want to learn more, you need to invest in yourself, because everyone always wants things for free, right? But the problem with free is you don't pay attention. When you pay attention. So when I didn't have the money. I sold my car, I paid him £15,000 for 2 days of his time. And he taught me three basic rules in real estate. One, make money when you buy, not when you sell. Always deal with motivated sellers, and always use OPM, other people's money. And these are the three rules I still use to today to buy multi-million-pound property deals. Still till today, 20 years on.
Yeah. And it's sort of like you started off, right? But you accelerated pretty quickly. Like you went from learning from him and then quickly elevate. Like you were vastly different to people around you. You didn't have just one or two properties. You're talking like 35 properties 6 months later. And that's massive.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because most people, they have knowledge, they understand the knowledge. In fact, Tim, most people know what to do. They just don't do it. It's like, all you got to do is do it. Like if you're going to say to me, how do you get in shape? Go to the gym, eat less, eat right, train, have a personal trainer, and you'll get in shape. Even the days you don't want to do it, you'll still turn up because accountability. But for me, it's really learning from people who know. And that's why I love the way that you're doing. You get to interview incredible people who get to impart knowledge, and people get to learn for free, or at least at the very least get inspired to have that little spark. And imagine all the lives that you've changed, all the thousands of millions of people that listen to your podcast, your show, and the lives that you've indirectly impacted without even knowing. Like that for me is why I continue to do what I do. If just one person listens to this podcast and this show, and I get so many messages from people every day. Oh, John, I heard you on this. I saw you on this show. I saw you on TV. I came to one of your events. I read your book. And those are the messages that you create a little ripple effect, and that ripples into so many different generations. And that's what I love about the stuff that you're doing, and it's why I continue to do what I do.
It's really, you speak about this a lot, heart-centered entrepreneurship. Like it comes from the heart, and you're there to create lasting long-term impact and add value, right? And that's when the money flows in. So income producing assets, I know you call these IPAs, like if you're someone, say you've got 20K, right? You're talking about 2008, but like even right now, right? I'm sure some deals that are happening or opportunities that you see right now. What was it? Weijing, the little phrase.
Yeah.
Really cool. Yeah. So the Chinese proverb meaning crisis, but also meaning opportunity. If we think about this right now, do you look at this time right now and what would you say to people? Say you had 20K, £20,000, and you're sitting on some cash. What could someone do with that to really benefit them, but also tap into IPA?
Let me give you the shortcut, right? How many times people have asked me this? First of all, 20,000 is not going to get you very far, right? You're not really going to buy property with that. You're not really going to be able to start a business with that, with anything meaningful. So then where is the best ROI? And I learned this from Warren Buffett. And he said that the best investment you can make is in yourself. So I would spend that 20,000 on lots of mentors, lots of coaches, sign up to a lot of courses, buy a lot of books, attend a lot of virtual events, online training programs, and acquire the knowledge. And then what we do is we're going to exchange our knowledge for sweat equity. So if I could rewind back the time, because in 2019, I took a company public, did my first IPO. If I could turn back time, I wouldn't do that. I would have, instead of spending 15, 20 years on one company, I would have spent 15, 20 years on 100 companies, right? So I would take all that knowledge and I would take my sweat equity, and then I would approach companies and say, hey, your company does this, and I can help your company do this, 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 and this. And normally to hire what we call a chief revenue officer. You got the CEO, CTO, CFO. You also have a CRO, which is a chief revenue officer, or a CSO, which is a chief strategy officer. So actually what I would recommend is for people to learn all the different skill sets because it's the skills that pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would learn, and then I would take the skills and use that as to exchange as equity in somebody else's company to be able to earn an income. That way you can have 10 different companies at the same time without having to run them. That's actually the smart move to do.
Yeah,
and now
the equity that's the piece, right? It's the equity that's the main part that you need in that equation.
Well, yeah. I mean, for example, if I said to you, hey, look, you know, how much your company making? It's making, okay, 500,000, million, brilliant. You want to take it to 10 million? Sure. Okay, let me come on board as your CSO, your CTO, however you want to do it, CRO, and anything above 10 million, give me a cut from that, right? And you don't have to pay my fee, right? Yeah. Most people, that's what, because now I've spent 20, that's actually what I'm doing right now. I get to coach a lot of companies and exchange sweat equity as an advisor for that company. It's a minority share between, you know, like 1%, 2%, 3%, sometimes a little bit more, but generally it's a very small stake in the company. But what's 1% of $1 billion company?
Massive. Yeah.
You see?
Massive.
So this is why this is actually the smart move, right? A lot of people focus on making sales, right? But time's changing now. And anyone listening to this, you've probably noticed that your sales cycles are getting longer. So if you try and get into business, it's much harder to do it now. So I would rather, when everyone's digging for the gold, right, you get with a company that's selling the spades and you help them sell the vision of what they're trying to do to acquire more. So now it becomes a bigger part of the pie. So that's actually, in today's market, anyone listening to this, starting off risk-free is the easiest place to start.
And I like that, because you're backing yourself in all of that. You have acquired the skills, and then you're applying those skills to back yourself to get results. And in exchange, you're leveraging it, right? You're getting a good amount in return, to 1%, 2%, 3%, which obviously of $1 billion is like 10 mil. So you're there really setting yourself up for success. You can multiply your time because you're not wedded in that sense, but you're using your skills to then the highest ROI on those skills. And obviously the upside, the asymmetric upside in that equation is massive. It's not just a high paying job in one company. You're not wedded to one company. I think that's the thing you say. It's not just all in on one, you're all in on 100, which is blowing my mind here, John. This is great.
Well, this is, again, it's thinking at the next level, right? You don't want to think about starting a business and selling this book or this widget to make money, because it takes a long time to, you know, turn over $1 billion, right? But if you can get with a company, and I've got a lot of friends in Silicon Valley, and I spend a lot of time, spending a lot of time with a lot of my very, very wealthy friends, some of them billionaires. And I just think they think differently. They're not into the business of, oh, let's start this business, do this. They're like, okay, how can I advise? And also you got to be very strategic. So the companies that I advise now, okay, this company does this company does this. Let's bring them together. Let's create a sale. Let's do let's do an acquisition. Right. So when you acquire a company, you're going to take a cut from brokering that deal as well, because you know the insights of both companies. You go, this would go really well with this. They each make 10 million each, but you put them together, they now make 20 million. You have a multiplier effect. They're now worth 30 million.
And you were on both sides of the deal. And get a fee for introducing.
You've helped them get there. Like one of my good friends, his name is Mark, and I've been sort of, you know, he's a good friend. We've been sort of, you know, meeting, and that's why I fly to Asia a lot, because I got a lot of my Asia contacts. But 8 years, and I told him how to structure his company. Probably I said, you do this, 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 and this. You know, he's got a juicing company, and he helps people, you know, lose weight and you know, get better energy. And I said, look, why are you using these people's juices? Just go make your own. Go to China, white label one, and put your face, you know, put your brand on there. And so he created this incredible community, and he's helped so many people. And, you know, company just offered him 72 million to buy his company in 8 years.
Beautiful. That's yeah. But he's obviously gone for the hard work approach, you know, put a lot of time into that. And obviously
this guy hustles, man. He hustles, he puts a lot of time in, makes a lot of sacrifice. That's why everyone is talking about this hustle culture. You need to embrace it, but control it. Right? Don't let it run away with you. You do have to put the hours in. You do have to put the time in. There will be times where you're burning the midnight oil on both ends. Right? I don't know any entrepreneurs or millionaires or billionaires that I know who hasn't been through that. The stories I hear of what people took to get to where they are, like, it almost sounds unbelievable. Like how someone could endure so much pain, but yet still follow through. And I think, Tim, it's a test, isn't it? Like the universe is testing us. If we're not willing to do the work, then you don't deserve it.
I always think this is, it's just about moving on the deals. If the deals are there, the opportunity is in front of you, but you know it's there and you could create something, but you've got to fly to that place and it's the other side of the world. But if you did, what could that create? What could that investment do? But you don't do it. You're holding back. You're not actually going fully in, like you're saying. And it's also about motivating yourself in the moment when you don't want to do it. Like you say, you've got to be able to go back to the grindstone, to the coal face, and actually dig again and keep pushing past all that rejection. And you're basically living in that space. You're living in that place where it's not happening, and you've got to keep going.
Well, I've got a hack for that, actually. For anyone listening to this that really know they need to do something, but they don't want to do it because they don't feel like it, then on the day you don't feel like it, just don't do it. Because there'll be a day you feel like it, right? It's kind of like sometimes when I get up, I don't want to go to the gym. So you know what? I'll do a smaller version of that to not get out of it. So I might, go for a half an hour run, or I might get down and do some press ups, or I might go into the. And here's the thing: like, if you don't want to do a smaller version of it. So like sometimes I go, oh God, I don't want to go to the gym. I'm going to be there for like an hour and a half. So let me just go for 15 minutes. And I go for 15 minutes. You know what happens? I go, actually, I'm starting to enjoy this now. You know what? Let's put a few more reps in. So actually, you have to trick your brain to do the things that you actually don't feel like doing.
They're getting that build that keeps you consistent, which then makes it easier on the days you do feel like it, and you become, because I really believe in the power of like your identity, your self-identity, and the fact that if this is, you're telling yourself this is something we do, even if it is just for 15 minutes, right? So yeah, I love that. That will really help some people. John, one of the things you do really, really well when you go and do these big talks to big stages, thousands of people there, all to see your work. One of the things I love that you do, that you do marvelously, like you've got a masterful grip of the audience within 30, 40 seconds of being on the stage. Talk us through. Public speaking is something that if you are hustling and if you're out there, the level of influence that you could have if you could become a good public speaker, or build that kind of persuasiveness, in that ability to move people, like you do that when you go on stage. What do you do in the first few seconds of being on stage? What's your kind of strategy for that, and how have you got to where you are now?
So people, they use these like things like go on stage, imagine everyone's naked and things like that. It's like, man, come on. It's like, honestly, it's when I go on stage, I am there to serve people. I'm there to give my 1,000% and to really explain things. That's why most of the times when I present, I try not to use slides, because slides just check people out. So if you ever see, people go to my website, like johnlee.com, you'll see some of my presentations and keynotes that I've done. And you'll see that I do something very different, which, yes, I do use slides, but I combined it with like a marker, and I use pen and paper. And the easiest way because I'm dyslexic, so that's how I learn. So it's like pen to paper, like I'm teaching one-on-one. So that's why I've got things like I've got a digital pen here that I always use to, when I'm talking to people, I can write things out because I need to visually see it as well. And what I realize is people either learn by seeing, learn by hearing, or learn by doing. So I try and incorporate all three of these over the last 20 years. Like the talks that I've given, the keynotes that I've given that created massive, long-lasting impact. I'm not talking about going on stage and hyping people up and getting that motivation up and then only for it to wane. But what is it that you can give to somebody, and these golden nuggets that people can actually take away and do and implement? And so I need to get people to understand what I'm trying to teach in a concept wise, in the terms of, I always like teaching frameworks. So here's a framework, because frameworks can be adapted to any situation or any time period.
The model is something that then they can teach, and that can spread, but it also spreads your personal brand, right? It's kind of like a double thing. It gets your message out there. People refer back to it. Without the model or the framework, it's random thoughts that, like you say, might have motivated them in the instant, but the model gives it that kind of firmness, that kind of credibility, as you would. I really love as well how you engage the audience. And like you say, I think you could feel that energy from you. It's not necessarily about you, but you're here to serve, and you can feel that. And the audience is coming along with you on that journey. And as you're going, like as I've seen, you obviously do draw a lot of things out, and that makes it more fun in that way. And people are engaged in that sense, because that's something that I think a lot of people listening to this show, because this show is mainly audience of entrepreneurs, people that have got their own business. Maybe they're solopreneurs. They're very much invested in themselves. Maybe they've got a career, but they're just super ambitious. And public speaking, or the ability to talk with conviction in a compelling way, this is the switch that you've helped people make, is the fact that actually they can bring the crowd with them, use a framework, use a model, and really start elevating their game in that respect.
Well, you asked me how powerful and what people need to do. Honestly, like when you look at business, there's really a couple of fundamental things you got to be good at. Number one, got to get really good at marketing and promoting. Two, converting and selling. Three, having good team building skills. So you got to be able to build those teams and empower and lead from the back, not from the front. Four is getting your operations and systems in place. And five is building the brand. So these five things actually, but if you basically want to create an acceleration of all five, then learn to speak. You know, when I was a kid, when I was in my, you know, growing up through high school and in primary school, I used to have this stutter. And so a part of me is like, yeah, I used to, that's how I used to speak. Like, I couldn't get my words out. And still sometimes you hear a glimpse of that. But for me, the effort that it takes you to say something to, let's say I'm talking to you right now, like one-on-one, but this goes out to thousands of people. That message and the effort it's taken me to do this is the same effort of doing one-on-one to one-to-many. So what I realized, the big secret on how you can accelerate your business. So if I'm speaking in front of 3,000 people, I say, hey, by the way, so I'll do my talk and I'll say, hey, if any of you would love help and I'm growing the business, scaling it, drop me a message, right? So if I got like 3,000 people there, I'll probably get 200 or 300 people reach out and say, hey, John. And from these 200 or 300 people, I'm able to now filter down to the companies that are doing over $1 million, that have been in business for a little while, that are spending money on marketing. And now this is where I would come in and do some sweat equity. So I would do advisory work, right? So that's leverage. If someone sees one of my, Instagram videos and, it's reached, 20, 30, 50,000 people, that's the size of a stadium. I only need one person to see that to be able to reach out and say, hey, John, I've got this company. It's in this industry. I need to raise funding for it. Like, can you help me do it? So that's why you want to look at the leverage, and speaking gives you the leverage, whether you're doing one-on-one, one-to-many, or if you're doing a podcast, or if you're doing a video, a piece of content, if you're doing an event, a keynote, whether you're pitching to investors, whether you're pitching to your partner, that literally, honestly, I will say it's the one skill that multiplies, it puts the multiplier effect on it.
It's the compounding part of things. And it's creating things like this, which is essentially digital, it's code, it's things that can work on your behalf while you're sleeping. It's there. We don't know this. This is obviously going to go out into the ether. It'll be on YouTube, it'll be on the podcast, but it will go on forever, right? It will keep compounding, keep bringing in new leads for you and building this business. And at the same time, that's going to impact across multiple platforms, impact multiple lives, and then share that message. So and for somebody starting out or somebody that's struggling with that, just to emphasize the point so it's really clear, like the way to do it is to take action, right? What would you suggest? Is just get out there, start recording videos, start differentiating yourself in that way? Because the first point you said was marketing, right? And this is in that bucket of personal brand, or?
Well, there's a formula I use called awareness times attention equals income. Like, if people if people never even heard of you, you're invisible, how will they ever have a chance to do business with you? And let me show you how the whole world is changing. A lot of people in the past is like, let's advertise something and then let's get people interested. Then they'll come to our company and they'll inquire. You never want to do that. Actually, what you want to do is, before that person comes to you, you want them to see an ad and go, oh yeah, I saw that guy on Tim's podcast. Oh yeah, really, some of the things then really made sense. And then I saw some of his YouTube videos and some of his Instagram, and then I followed him on Threads, and then I heard him on Clubhouse, and then I went to his website. And now that's the client that you want. So it's actually now flipped. So how we used to do things 10 years ago is the complete opposite now. So now it's about always giving first, always adding the value, always putting enough out there. So actually, I will say to people, for anyone wanting to get started, you need to start talking about what you want to achieve in life to attract the people. So I call it the MMM. Your message, your market will match the person that will come to you in order to start something big. And I would always say, join a mastermind. Find a mastermind of people within your industry. That's why I love to fly around the world and conduct these masterminds in LA and Vegas and Singapore, like all around the world, right? Because I get to meet incredible people who are operating different businesses, right? And try and get part of retreats. So I joined my friend's retreat out in Thailand, and there was like 200 entrepreneurs there. And the amount of business that you're able to do what we call collaboration. It's never about competition now, Tim. It's about your collaboration with the people that you can help support. And you're starting to see a lot of that happening now, purely because to advertise your business is so expensive now. There's not much tracking you can do to be able to optimize that. So now it's all about collaboration. So when you collaborate, it's much easier to monetize immediately.
And these are some of the core themes, like even going back to what you were saying about billionaires and your friends and millionaires, like the theme is come together, is to create, not to compete. It's not competition. And this is a big theme. It's a different way of thinking to what we currently would have done, or in the olden times where you'd think everyone's out to get me. This is a competition. I've got to be the biggest, the best. No, we've got to partner. We've got to collaborate, and we've got to make it happen through creativity and through having that thought process and the idea of how we can bring these two people together.
Yeah. I mean, the easiest way to do it to get started, find someone who you want to partner with and just use this one phrase. What are you working on right now that I can help support you with? And they'll tell you. And then you support them, but you don't expect anything in return. Right. And then you keep doing it. And then the team will say, oh, you know, that person who did this, oh, that person came from this person, or that person just made a shout out. Like my team are pretty solid on the ground. They'll look for things on the internet people have like indirectly said or helped promote without me even asking. And then these people will come back and, you know, I think you made a post on Insta, you know, talking about, hey, we're going to do this interview. Right. And that came back to my friend, said, you know, I saw this, or my team said, oh, this person tagged you in because they manage my social. Right. So it's really good that, you know, we just do things to help support people without any agenda. And honestly, that's what, and some of my relationships will take 5, 10, 15 years to nurture. There's one guy I've known for 15 years. And, you know, we've been out, you know, for dinner together. When we're on the circuit, we never really did business together. And literally it was only last month, right, that we really sort of, you know, let's do this together. We made a lot of money together because we've spent many years getting to know each other. And so this is why it's important to collaborate and nurture and build those relationships, add value, even when you're not getting anything in return.
And that's the piece. It's not, you're not going into this going, hey, what's in it for me? I know you've got X, and if I could leverage that, you're not going, I'm going to go strong arm you or get friends with you or collaborate for my benefit. It's like, hey, we're in similar circles. We're doing great things. We've got similar missions. Let's just hang out and see what's going to come together, because we start to think the same. We can start throwing ideas against the wall. And because you're pouring into that relationship, you're almost giving out, not even to get, right? You're just there. And then just as a result of that, of course, the benefit is that, yeah, there is a high likelihood that you will do deals together in the future at some point. But you've said that's 15 years in the making. There's a 15-year investment, but now it's paying off.
And you know, the funny thing about this, so there was like a lot of people ask me, how do I get my keynotes, right? Like how do you fly around the world and speak in some of the biggest platforms on the planet? And that has been 20 years of nurturing a lot of, you know, people. Like if I see a friend speaking, I say, hey, bro, I just saw you speaking in front of this event. How many people are asking me about, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 people there? I said, brilliant. Hey, would you mind putting in good work? He said, yeah, no problems, bro. Easy. Within 5 minutes, I get a message from the promoter saying, hey, this person referred you. He said that you're great at talking about this topic. Would you like to come and do a keynote? And it's like that, you know, but that didn't happen overnight. It took 15 years, 20 years to nurture doing this.
And that's the thing that people would say, hey, you just got lucky, or they point out, oh, you just be able to do that because you know that person, or you've got 2.4 million followers on Instagram. So there, of course, you get a post and you get all these. No, it took 20 years. No, you've been hustling since day one. No, since you went into the Chinese restaurant with your parents, you saw what it took to make it work. And you went, I'm going to do this. And then the result 20 years later is you can make one message, and that gets you on a speaking thing for a big fee and a big audience to talk to.
You know, it's funny, like even my like investment deals and, you know, deals that come into you. So obviously, you know, when you hang around people in Silicon Valley, you always get firsthand knowledge of what deals are coming. Like if you were one of the 6 people that were invited to Zuckerberg's dorm room to start Facebook, right? The amount of people I've known who've made like 50 to 100 million off a whim, off a meeting, off a party, off a karaoke night that they just happen to attend and get whim of that, and then having to have allocation in that. That's the thing. People need to think about, how do I get allocation?
Yeah.
Allocation is about relationship building. It's actually one of the hardest things to scale, right? Because you only need, I have a friend of mine who invested into a digital currency called Solana, and she got in at 7 cents.
Man,
7 cents.
and that's insane.
And and during the whole pandemic, it went to about, I think it's like 200 or something crazy like that. And she cashed out like over 100 million. So, but it only took one relationship, one deal for that to happen. And so the reason why I'm talking about this is because you asked me, how do people get started? You start, and sometimes it seems like you're doing all this effort, but nothing's coming back from it. But I guarantee you one thing, I will promise, if you continue to persist and you continue to do the things that matter to you, that are passionate to you, the opportunities will come. The opportunities will come. And it's almost like a test. How long can you endure this with not making any money? And how badly do you want it? Will you still carry on? And that's the true test, isn't it, Tim? What are you willing to do for free and not get paid to do it in order to get the outcome that you want?
Beautiful. Yeah. How long can you endure it then? Like, how long can you endure it? Because you're planting seeds. And I know you talk about this as well, moonshots. Like, we should, how do we view risk in this context? Like, if we're thinking about like the Solana example versus the properties versus, how do we view risk, John?
So never put all your eggs into one basket. I'm sure a lot of people have heard that. So I use a strategy called a 30-30-30-10 strategy. So you take all your money, you put 30% into your own business, 30% into other people's businesses, 30% into some income producing assets like real estate or digital assets, 10% into a moonshot. But the mistake people make is they go, oh, I heard about this thing, let me put all my money in it, and then it crashes. They lost everything. Whereas if you only just allocate 10%, if it crashes, you don't need to care, because you've got your pot split up into different things.
And what I love about that Solana example is it's the right timing as well. Because if you're getting in at 7 cents, you're getting in at the right timing on your moonshot. And that's the leverage, because you don't have to put in like your whole lot to make the 100 mil. You've put in a sensible amount, but actually that sensible amount has a massive payout because you got in at the right timing, and that came from the network and the referral or the knowledge and the way of thinking. And like what you're calling out here, John, is so important, because you're saying, look, there's opportunities for anyone and they're all around you, whether it's AI, whether it's Web3, whether it's crypto, but not necessarily whether it's the platforms, whether it's, you want to be the person selling the shovels, not the gold digger. Like, this is what you're calling out. And it's beautiful, because you're saying to people, believe in possibility and just get started, if I'm right.
Well, you can look, what people can do and what they will do are worlds apart, right? So look, you talk about timing. You probably remember Kodak, all the Kodak, they do take films and you go and print your things out. And the person working for that company came with an idea and said, you know what, we've got an incredible way to be able to digitize these pictures so we don't have to go and print them all the time. And they were like, oh, this is ridiculous, not going to work. He said, but he convinced them. And eventually they did start a digital camera. I don't remember the Kodak digital camera.
Right.
Yeah. And so they tried it. They put digital, but it failed. You know why? They were 2 years too early. 2 years too early.
My goodness.
So when all these other companies started to do these digital cameras, they were like, oh, yeah, we tried it. It doesn't work. And so we're not going to do it. And so, then they took that technology and sold it to Sony. And Sony now had that Sony digital camera, which then evolved. So the lesson I want people to understand here is entrepreneurship is you've got to keep evolving. Too many people, especially entrepreneurs, I'm doing this, it's making money and comfortable. They never disrupt themselves, right? Look at Netflix, how it's been disrupted, right? And how they disrupted Blockbuster, but now it's being disrupted with online content now, with AI content now. That's why they're paying, almost $1 million to have these AI engineers to come and prompt content to produce new content. So now everyone's a filmmaker. You and I can be a filmmaker. We can take this entire podcast, put it into AI and say, turn this into a film. They'll take our characters and they'll turn it into a film. You see? Cool. So disruption happens at all levels. The question is, are you willing to adapt? Because if you're not adapting, you're going to die.
So adapt or die, do the hard work, be consistent, and make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right kinds of people. And then is the mistake that people then make is they're chasing the thing that's already the hot thing, that is, you needed to do it before it was the hot thing to then get in at the right time to get yourself that equity. or is it that they
Well,
should plant more seeds just in
it's the
general?
timing. The timing of it. How do you know where the timing is right? The timing is right where nobody's heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it. So the question people have to answer is this: what do you know to be true that other people don't know?
Mm-hmm.
And what evidence backs that up?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, way before AI got big, I already invested in a company that does a lot of AI.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is way before AI got, ChatGPT, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw that actually it comes down to automation, computing power. People now don't want to work in jobs, so that means manpower is getting low. It's quite hard to hire people now, and so people want to do their own thing. But to do their own thing, they can't do it by themselves. They need support to do it. So now a friend of mine had 400 employees, and with AI was able to get rid of 100 employees. Not say get rid of, sounds bad. Like to be able to AI to replace that. Now people say to me, well, John, will AI replace jobs? And the answer is no. AI will not replace jobs. It's the people knowing how to use AI will replace your jobs. Do you know the number one people? Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. Who do you think right now is making the most money in AI? Take a guess.
Navida, or you mean as a person?
No, I mean like the type of job titles. Like who
Oh,
do you think is actually making the most?
hmm.
Take a guess.
Well, it's either the engineers themselves or the prompt people, the guys that are actually
It's
doing the
basically
prompts.
it's the copywriters.
Right? Why?
The copywriters, the people that this technology disrupted first, are the people that are making the most.
Because they're leveraging it, or like, what's
Well,
the?
like if I'm writing a copy now, I can write maybe to write one piece of copy might take me 2 or 3 hours. I can write 1,000 pieces now in a minute. You see, so I duplicate myself. That's
Mhm.
why a lot of people are now cloning themselves as well. If I was with you, I would show you my clone so you can see, oh my God, wow, is that really you? Wow, it sounds like, looks like you. Like all these technology, like people need to really start adapting right now. Adapt to the market changes fast. So know the trends, see them coming, notice there's the bits of evidence that support that. And does it logically make sense? The answer is yes. And if it sounds crazy, you tell someone an idea, oh, John, that sounds a bit crazy. Well, we're not far from Terminator style or iRobot style.
And basically, don't go. If people say it's kind of crazy, that's kind of probably a good thing because they're not onto it yet, and you probably know that then there's an opportunity there as long as you've got those facts backed up and you know that this is disruptive, it's got a trend behind it, it makes sense, and you can see that this is a wave that's going to explode 5 years down the line.
Yeah, it's like stock tips, right? Like people will say to me, oh, John, like when do I invest in a company? Well, you should invest in a company before it goes onto the stock exchange. That's actually the best to get in, like a pre-seed round.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-seed, and then your Series A, B, C, and then IPO, right? So the pre-seed is actually the best place to actually, when someone says, when Uber says, I've got this great idea, right? I just need a 25 grand check. There you go. That's the best time to get in, right? So then how do you filter all that? That's a whole different story. And maybe we'll do another session on this, talking about how you actually analyze deals with the pitch decks, what needs to be in the pitch deck, like the number one thing before I invest in a company is actually not what the company does, is all the founders on that company do have a proven track record.
Yeah.
Right. So me and my friends, we already lodge money to founders before they've even started a company, because we know whatever they touch turns to gold. A little bit like your pineapple golden. I actually have a pineapple behind there, actually. Same pineapple.
Yeah, prosperity.
Mine's white. Mine's
nice.
white.
Nice. And you've got a
yeah,
money tree there as well. I love this. Yeah, there's a lot of Asian
I like
things.
to do a lot of feng shui.
Yeah, no, I love it because obviously I'm here in Singapore, so I have a lot of friends that are Singaporean. I do a lot of Malaysia as
I
well.
love Singapore. I was just in
That's
Singapore.
great. Yeah, I know. I saw you here in Bay Sands. I was like, this is fantastic. And now I know that you're coming over quite a lot and you're doing a lot of business here. It's a brilliant mindset, and they're very entrepreneurial in that sense of partnering and helping people kind of scale it. And everyone's really into self-development, and they're very ambitious. They want to get on. They want to learn the skills and acquire them, and then think about creating a fortune through adding value. So I think very good market for that. And when we're talking about this, like one of the things you recommend is free up your time first and then get rich and then get wealthy. Like, I think people probably approach it in slightly a different way. Like, why is it that we want to free up our time first?
Because you need time to implement and execute. It's execution. Ideas are 10 a penny. You know that. It's like everyone's got ideas, but actually, which one? I have a friend of mine who said, "I've got this cool idea." Because once his girlfriend's car broke down, and he had to go all the way there and pump the car up and change the tire. And he said, "Wow, wouldn't it be really good if I could just like press a button and just lift the car up?" And so about 5 years later, he goes, "Oh my God," like he's in a shop. He's going, "Oh my God, that's my idea. I came up with that." Yeah, it's your idea, but you didn't execute it.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to get the timing. Again, it's all down to timing, but it's also the execution of that idea. And to free up your time gives you time to think. This is why I recommend all of you, you need to stay lean, right? Don't like the mistake I made when I first started is, okay, you go out, you buy all these Lamborghinis, go and buy all these things. And like all the money you made, you just spent it now. Right. And this is, young entrepreneurs. You make your first million, you start buying all this nonsense that no one really cares about but you. Right.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of like we've got to live the lifestyle of financial minimalism. So, I wear an Apple Watch now, but I'm a watch collector. I collect all the watches, all the expensive watches. I don't wear them. I just buy them for investment now. Cars, like I've owned 10 Lamborghinis. Right. But I don't even drive them. I just put them in the garage, or I basically buy it and then I put it with the garage and then they will go and sell it. So now it's turned from a passion into just a playbook now. So, I would say to everybody, minimize all your costs for everything. Right. And let's say if you're husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, try and live off one income. And then the other income the person produces, use that to invest. Because if you lose everything with that income, doesn't matter because you got your base covered. Right. So minimize your cost to as low as possible. Move back in with your parents if you have to. I did. Right. So there's no shame in that. Right. In fact, that's why everyone's going to Asia. That's why there's so many digital nomads now, because you look how much it costs to live in England. Right. And the taxes, your inheritance tax, everything's, gas, electric, everything's just crazy. Interest rates. But if you move to somewhere like Thailand or Bali, where a lot of the digital nomads are going, you can basically live off 5,000 to 10,000 a year and live in paradise.
Mad.
And have that's why everyone's there. Right. So, but imagine right now you've got a car to pay for, mortgage to pay for this. Okay, I get it. If you've got kids and it's a little bit harder, but there are great international schools around the world right now.
Even in Bali, there are. Yeah.
It's actually better not just like Singapore, Malaysia, Dubai. Like it's actually better to send your kids. And again, so I'm going to get a bit of rap on this, but it's actually, like we always want to send our kids to private school. That's cool. That's great. Yeah, they get a great network. But isn't it better to do it the opposite way around? It's better to send your kids to overseas school, right? International school. They get to meet lots of different cultures, lots of different people, learn lots of different languages. Then when they get into high school and university, then you bring them back to the UK or to the place where you're going to do. That's when they will thrive, because now they've got worldwide experience now. Right.
Yeah,
so
I completely agree.
All my friends are doing this.
I completely agree. My kids, they're obviously here in Singapore. They're learning Mandarin. Their friends
amazing
all over the world, and they're learning all about the Singaporean culture, the Chinese culture, and they're getting this for free, essentially, just absorbing it. Obviously, they go to international schools, so not totally free, John, but they do. They get this through just walking down the street. They see the Dorians, they see the shop houses, they see the culture, they understand how the world works from this perspective, and it's fantastic for them. And I'd recommend it to anyone, like you say, if you can minimize those expenses, and then you can it's the same if you're a millionaire or if you're just digital nomad. It's the same pool that you're swimming in, or the same ocean, the same beach that you're sitting on. So
but people never think about it. Like why? Like people could literally become financially free in a couple of years by doing that process. Like you could spend 2 years somewhere, become financially free, get yourself set up, have the time to implement, build a business, then move back.
And come back with that asset.
Yeah.
Come back with that.
Correct.
Because and now you've got what would they be setting up though? What would they be setting up specifically when they're in Bali?
Well, they could, for example, a lot of digital nomads are setting up a lot of online e-commerce. They're doing a lot of like membership. We have a lot of influencers that are having time to shoot content to build a big following that they monetize. There's because you're involved in that world, because a lot of digital nomads, like if you ever go to Dubai, like almost everyone you speak to at a restaurant is an entrepreneur. Like imagine the network and distribution you're going to have. So just having pieces of equity from that as well will also work. So I'm not saying it's a permanent thing, But sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get yourself out of the situation that you're in. The question you got to ask yourself is, how badly do you want it?
Mate, you've got this. You've got this. And you've spelled it out so clearly to the audience. By going and doing that, you're giving yourself the valuable time, the time asset to then go and create the thing that's going to give you the money asset that then you can bring it back to the expensive UK place, but you've got that forever. And that's what's going to get you financially free. And it's a completely different setup. John, thank you, my man. This time that you've spent with us, these precious moments, like really these pearls of wisdom, like thank you for sharing this, because you've helped so many people today. And yeah, you're continually an inspiration. You're going out there doing things, delivering things, and I'm inspired. I've seen you, I've reached out, like you were just phenomenal, my friend. And I know that people on this call want to spend more time with you. So how can they join your business passive income mastery course summit that you're doing in September, and B, where can they find you?
Well, I put on a lot of education, a lot of events, mainly because I want to get people to at least making $1 million before I start partnering with them. So that's, I guess, my selfish reason of doing a lot of these keynotes and talks and content and things like that. So if they go to johnlee.com, they can see a lot of there's all the content there. It's all free. You can check out all the videos and things that I put up there. If you go to the events section, johnlee.com/events, you'll see we run a lot of free events as well. Because again, I want this I don't want people to have to go and sell their car and then to be able to learn this stuff. I want this information to be accessible to everybody. And so, you know, I went through that journey myself. And it just takes one person to say something a certain way that you understand, that you get, in order for you to really thrive. So they can go to johnlee.com. They can see all the things there. They can check out some of my social media content. Just type in John Lee, you'll see my verified account. Just follow me. I do have a broadcast channel on Instagram as well. So that's why I kind of share a lot of tips if people want to join that. Again, it's all free. But this is really for me to give first, give people the knowledge, have them implement the strategies, and then they'll reach out back to me and say, hey, John, I did what you said. My business is doing this. Let's partner together. That's why I do this.
That's the full circle. Get someone to $1 million, then partner with them, and then we go to the next level. I love it, John. You're speaking my language. You're speaking the audience language. And again, thank you, my friend, for doing this. This has been amazing.
And thank you for helping spread the messages of all the entrepreneurs to really inspire, because entrepreneurship's a really lonely business. I mean, it really is. And it's tough. It's hard. It's not easy. Anyone tells you it's easy is probably, you know, not been through that whole journey, but you've got to put in the time, put in the effort, put in the work, and to have people like you, Tim, share these insights with people before they even get into the journey or even going through that journey is incredible. That's why I love to continue to support the work that you're doing as well. So thank you for having me on the show and also helping to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs.
Very blessed, John. Thank you. And that's a wrap. Thank you for sharing and rating this show. It helps us reach other people. If you're ambitious, which I know you are because you're listening to this show, I've got 3 courses out that you can take and elevate your skills around sales, negotiation, and personal transformation, and that identity piece of finding your purpose and knowing how to take action courageously, going after your dreams. So get stuck into it. The link are in the show notes. And until next time, believe it is possible. Take that message and that energy into your life and just go for it. Let's go.